Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go after the left, we go after the rights, we go after the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion, and that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys, today's date. Wow, I was not expecting that. Today's date, June 11th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm host most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. First, we get started, guys, let you know that we are a family-friendly podcast, since we try to be. So therefore, we do try to watch our language, but words do fly. But at the same time, there may be things that might be shown that maybe have a graphic nature, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. Well, been a very interesting week, especially since on Thursday, they did actually do a very, I should say, I want to start off with the old Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times, but we are living in interesting times because come this Thursday, there was the live televised January 6th committee hearing, unless you were watching Fox News that decided they didn't want to show it, but hey, I get it. You don't want to incriminate yourself. Every lawyer tells you to do that. But the thing about it is there is some takeaways to take from Thursday's broadcast, especially for the simple fact of the matter of why it's important and why you should be paying attention.
We just had protesters, T-circle, breach the line. We need backup.
Chilling new aerial footage showing the moment protesters breached the Capitol grounds on January 6.
This is now effectively a riot.
The new video, part of the debut primetime hearing of the Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack.
Donald Trump, the President of the United States, spurred a mob of domestic enemies of the Constitution to march down the Capitol and subvert American democracy.
The focus immediately turning to the role of the former president in those crucial hours when a mob descended on the Capitol.
President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack.
Committee Vice Chair Republican Representative Liz Cheney referencing then-President Trump's alleged 7-point plan to overturn the 2020 election, which a committee source said included possibly replacing the acting attorney general and instructing state officials to create false electors.
Aware of the rioters' chance to hang Mike Pence, the president responded with this sentiment, quote, "Maybe our supporters have the right idea. Mike Pence, quote, deserves it."
Testimony also revealed that it was Pence who called Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley, demanding that the National Guard defend the Capitol. Milley had further testified that the president's chief of staff called him to say that they needed to dispel the narrative that the president was not taking action.
We need to establish the narrative that that the president is still in charge and that things are steady or stable or what's that say. I immediately interpret that as politics. Red flag for me personally, no action, but I remember it distinctly.
Previously recorded testimony from former Attorney General Bill Barr disputing the president's claims of election fraud was played.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
That was enough to convince the president's daughter and former advisor Ivanka Trump.
I respect Attorney General Barr, so I accepted what he was saying.
The committee says the president had been told by at least 4 close aides that he had lost re-election. Testimony played reveals that at least one individual associated with the campaign even told him he was likely to lose the election.
At some point in the conversation, Matt Oskowski, who is the lead data person, was brought on. And I remember he delivered to the president pretty blunt terms that he was going to lose.
The committee played a huge emphasis on the role of 2 extremist groups, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. Both groups were visibly present at the Capitol on January 6th. and were some of the first to break into the Capitol building.
I am not allowed to say what's going to happen today because everyone's just going to have to watch for themselves. But it's going to happen.
Never before seen footage from inside Republican Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's office shows the moment everyone fled the scene. A GOP source with direct knowledge says McCarthy's staff was scared that day, and Cheney stated that McCarthy was calling Trump's allies and family members to try to persuade the president to intervene. Now, McCarthy, along with several other GOP members of Congress, have refused to comply with requests to testify before the committee.
He's patently embarrassing himself. If he were truly a leader within the House, he would want to get to the truth and the facts, which is where he started, but somewhere he went off the rails on that.
The committee also claims that multiple Republican lawmakers, including Representative Scott Perry, were advocating for pardons in the final weeks of the administration. The committee also heard live testimony from documentarian Nick Quested and Capitol Police Officer Caroline Edwards, who were both on the ground. Many Capitol officers were in attendance, watching on as one of their own testified about the extensive injuries she sustained as one of the first officers on the scene.
What I saw was just a war scene. I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
A spokesman for former President Donald Trump slammed the January 6th committee hearing as a production, not a legislative hearing, in a tweet suggesting the public hearings won't hold eyeballs ahead of the November midterms. And of course,
now the one thing I will say about that is that that's why it's important. That is exactly why the January 6th hearing had to be publicized. It's the reason why most TV channels outside of Fox News did broadcast it, because a lot of people said, oh, well, you know, it was January 6th. The problem is that it's a possibility it can happen again. And this time even worse. You guys, like, that's why I keep saying this whole time. The reason why I kept following on this podcast, and the reason why I keep talking about it is, simply put, that a group of individuals following someone who believes himself to be a president, more like a dictator, decide to try to basically become terrorists and storm a federal building and stop an electoral count process. Even doing so, some of them, as you guys remember, had weapons, had tie downs. There was a noose that was planted on the lawn out in front of the Senate. This was not a mob that was going to protest. This was a mob that was under the belief that they were these special Mel Gibson patriots that took it upon themselves to turn around and say, we're going to take our country back. Those are terrorists. That is a mob. And what we saw, or if you were watching if you were watching Thursday, or if you're just watching a little bit of snippet just not too long ago, is exactly what the commission is looking into. Not only for the fact of who actually started this, which we already know, Trump is at the center point of this shitstorm. Pardon my French. But other ones are responsible as well. Other Republicans are responsible for this as well. But I love that the smoking gun of all of this is the people that follow Trump. Because when the question was asked, who invited them to the Capitol, and they asked people, fairly obvious.
They've just told us what they heard the rioters saying while they stormed the Capitol on that day. Now we're going to hear it from the rioters themselves. Without objection, I include in the record a video presentation.
What really made me want to come was the fact that, you know, I had supported Trump all that time. I did believe, you know, that the election was being stolen. And Trump asked us to come.
He personally asked for us to come to D.C. that day. And I thought, for everything he's done for us, if this is the only thing he's going to ask of me, I'll do it.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Did you recall President Trump mentioning going to the Capitol during his speech?
Oh, yeah. So that's one of my disappointments. He said he was going to go with us, that he was going to be there.
I know why I was there, and that's because he called me there and he laid out what is happening in our government. He laid it out.
But I remember Donald Trump telling people to be there, right? I mean, to support.
So you mentioned that the president asked you. Do you remember a specific message?
Basically, yeah, he asked for us to come to DC, that big things are going to happen.
What got me interested, he said, I have something very important to say on January 6th or something like that, is what got me interested to be there.
You know, Trump has only asked me for two things. He asked me for my vote, and he asked me to come on January 6th.
So again,
we've obtained some.
Sorry about that. So again, you literally heard. I know it's crazy. It is nuts. It is beyond belief to sit there and hear that and go, what were these guys thinking? Well, it's easy when it's a cult. It's easy when it's a cult. A cult follows one leader, and up to the actual electoral count. Trump was saying the whole entire time, "Stop the steal. We're going to march down." And even heard a couple of these people believe it. Well, I thought he was going to be marching with us, and he was nowhere to be found when these individuals decided, hey, let's go be idiots and go into areas we're not supposed to go into. Trump was nowhere to be found. So yes, yes, irrecoverably beyond. It's really beyond. It's like we're beyond proof of. We're beyond what you can prove. I almost recited Training Day for a second. It's not what you know; it's what you can prove. I think beyond shadow of a doubt, we can prove that Trump was responsible. He should be held responsible. And the fact of the matter that a lot of people are still saying, what was the whole point of this January 6th commission hearing, is to basically show you guys if we, the people that supported Trump, are still in office. The people that supported Trump can still make a difference. As long as those people are there, the door will always be open for a man like him or someone similar to him to come on through. And I don't want to see Donald Trump 2.0. I don't want to see that. You know why? He's going to be smarter than the one that's currently around right now. So that tells you everything you want to know, because like I said before, midterm elections, 3 months and counting, shit is getting real. And again, I encourage you, highly, highly, highly encourage you to vote. If you never voted before, go ahead and register. You still got plenty of time. But go ahead, get registered to vote. Do early voting if it suits you. But vote. Be active, because trust me, they're trying. Republicans are the only group. I know we talk about Democrats and Republicans on the show, but Republicans are the only group that's making sure that the Voting Rights Act didn't get passed. They're making sure the John Lewis Act didn't get passed, because if the Voting Rights Act was passed, none of these laws would matter that Republicans have put in place to curb mail-in voting, to close voting polls, to disenfranchise people from voting, to actually stop mail-in ballots for everyone instead of specific people, to have these sort of ID cards or voter ID cards you have to show up with to come vote. The thing about it is, if that one Voting Rights Act was put in place, it would have made our voting process so much easier. Again, Republicans underestimated how people would vote in the last election. They're doubling down and making sure that their goal is to disenfranchise minority voters, because they do know minority voters may not go their way. Even though Democrats, again, will have a harder time convincing people to trust them again, because they don't have a lot of they're very, very short on the campaign promises that they made. Very short. But again, whatever you decide to do, be active and go vote. So, switching gears for a second, guys, I have to ask this question, because again, we are not too far off from the Uvalde shooting, and the sad part is there has been three more mass shootings since the Uvalde shooting. But the thing that kills me is, and this is just an article that someone brings a really good point on, that 7 states have raised the purchase age for semi-automatic rifles, which means that right now there are 43 states out there that have yet to act on this, because those 43 states still allow an 18-year-old to purchase a semi-automatic rifle. And I have to ask this question. For all you gun nuts, ammosexuals, the ones that feel like the government's coming to take your guns, which at this point is a BS lie. Nobody's going to come take your guns. Do you not? I say this all the time. Do people understand the work, the man hours, the resources it would take for the government to come by and basically collect everyone's firearms? The sheer manpower alone. I'll be honest with you. That number's got to be just as high as trying to cancel student debt right now. As far as canceling student loan debt, it may not top it, but it's got to be freaking close. So gun nuts, no one's going for your guns. But I have to ask this question because people are defending, and I still have to ask this question. People are defending the right for an 18-year-old to buy a gun. And I have to ask this question because a lot of people use the Army. Well, 18-year-olds can go enlist in the Army. Yes, because the Army wants younger, trainable bodies. They do not want people in their 30s and 40s with issues or, already already set in their ways. The Army can't break them. The Army can't train them. Not to the proper way they can train a fresh off the boat 18-year-old and put them through boot camp to get them through AIT to assign them to whatever designation they need for their additional training. The thing about it is that even though they go through armed forces, and yes, they may come out honorably discharged, still, in my opinion, doesn't mean you don't own a firearm. Well, they were trusting the Army. Yes, because the Army teaches you two things. It teaches you how to listen. It teaches you to follow orders, and if need be, teaches you how to kill. That's the only two things that I've always learned from Army buddies. That the reason why there's only two things that come out of it. They teach you to follow orders, and they teach you to kill. That's it. So do you really trust an 18-year-old that is possible? And again, let's not forget the fact that a lot of these 18 and up-year-olds are going to war-torn areas. They come back with mental issues, PTSD, possibly CTE. They come back messed up. And for all those who have never experienced the VA system, it is a shit show. And you want to trust those said individuals with those issues to firearms, especially when they're 18 years old. I'm sorry, it makes no sense. It's dangerous. I mean, I can say it's like concealed carry. I love when people sit there and say, "Well, you feel safe with me. I'm trained." Dude, I don't. And this is coming from somebody that owns firearms. I will never. My whole thing is to be paranoid, especially if I know someone's concealed carrying. I'll be like, "Yeah, I don't trust you," because again, everybody thinks that in the moment of a firefight, you have a fight or flight response. And I'm sorry, introducing a gun to a situation that did not call for one escalates quicker than anything else. You conceal carry people. Hey, I get it. These days, your argument can be made. Do I trust you? No. But you say enough of a point, though. But again, 18, I still ask this question because that was the argument. What if they're in the Army? Still. You tell them they can sign up to go to the Army, but they still can't go buy a rental car. They still can't go to a bar and order a shot. They can't go to a liquor store or a gas station and buy liquor there. No, still can't. The thing about it is we do need to look at the way we do our gun laws and gun registration, gun laws, and actually how our requirements. And again, I've said this before. There's this little thing for a lot of people who don't know called the Dickey Amendment. The Dickey Amendment was basically the Republicans' answer to making sure that we could not go to the same level of gun registration, of gun laws, and gun restrictions that most of the nations have done. The Dickey Amendment has made sure that. For all those that don't know, the Dickey Amendment just means that it prevents the CDC from getting any governmental funding to look into the study of gun violence and how it affects us as a culture. It has been there since Reagan. And every time it's brought up, it's almost like the Republican status quo is to make sure that the amendment stays there. Even though Barack Obama in his presidency did get a measure in to say the CDC can be funded, but every time the bill comes up, there is no funding for said bill. Again, this is the point I'm making because again, the reason why we need to start looking at the way we do gun laws is basically because people like this are starting to actually get it. And I mean, the next two stories will tell you alone why we need to change the way we do gun laws.
Washington, where NBC News has just confirmed that an armed man was in fact arrested overnight near the home of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Let's get right to our justice correspondent, Pete Williams, now from Washington. Pete, give us some of the details here. What more do we know about exactly what happened?
Well, we're told this happened overnight. It was just between, say, 1 and 1:30 when the man arrived near Justice Kavanaugh's house. He was stopped before he got to the house. He apparently arrived in a taxi. And what authorities say is that he was armed with a gun, a knife, and pepper spray and threatened to attack or kill Justice Kavanaugh. Now, the Supreme Court has acknowledged some of the bare facts here in a brief statement. I'll read it to you. It says, at approximately 1:50 a.m. today, a man was arrested near Justice Kavanaugh's residence. The man was armed and made threats against Justice Kavanaugh and was transported to Montgomery County's Police 2nd District. I think what's going to happen here is these are going to end up being federal charges because of the potential attack on a federal law enforcement or a federal judge here. But we're still waiting to hear the details about exactly how this case is going to be prosecuted. The man was out of state, and there's some indication that the police may have been watching for him to arrive. Those details are still what we're trying to confirm. These sorts of attacks on Supreme Court justices are thankfully very rare, potential attacks, I should say. The last one that I can think of was actually in 1985 when somebody who was never discovered fired a bullet through the window of Supreme Court Justice Harry Blackmun's residence in suburban Washington. He lived in Arlington, Virginia. He, of course, was the author of Roe v. Wade.
Which is interesting because, Pete, we saw these protests outside of justices' homes, including Kavanaugh's, just after that leaked draft Supreme Court opinion on abortion last month. So how has that sort of changed security for the justices, really all of them these days?
Well, it's changed it very much in terms of more security around their homes, more security when they travel, and more security around the court building itself. Ever since shortly after the Politico story leaked of Justice Samuel Alito's draft opinion that would have the court overturn Roe, there's been one of those high, non-scalable fences put up all around the Supreme Court. The court building itself, of course, has been closed to the public ever since the COVID pandemic hit. But in terms of people being able to get even onto the sidewalk outside the court, much less the marble plaza in front of the court building, you can't have done that. You can't do that ever since the leaked opinion last month. So it's been more security for the building and for the justices.
So I will be honest with you guys. No love lost for Kavanaugh. I know. I find it interesting that, yes, he unfortunately got ramrodded in as a Supreme Court pick. One of Trump's picks, the fact that, there was a case of sexual assault that was brought up against him and wasn't properly looked into because, again, President Trump curtailed the FBI at that point to do their investigation, pretty much handcuffed them. And so, I say this before, there's nothing wrong with protesting. I do believe that you should protest. It's your right to protest. Now, outside of a Supreme Court justice's home, that's pushing it. That's real pushing it. But you notice, and I point this out not to be the devil's advocate on this, but you do notice that for a lot of these Supreme Court judges, no one's in front of Sotomayor. No one's in front of Ketanji Brown Jackson. Where are they in front of? Brett Kavanaugh, Samuel Alito, Amy Coney Barrett. I wonder why. Because those are probably going to be the three of the four judges outside Clarence Thomas who are probably going to sit there and possibly overturn Roe versus Wade. Now, again, despite how you feel about them, nobody deserves to have their life threatened. But again, this is the point I'm making about how we handle gun laws in our country, that this individual had a gun, had knives, had mental issues, and was about to turn around and try to go for Supreme Court justice. Again, that is a federal offense. But it just shows you that, disturbed individuals, not criminals, because that's what Fox News likes to hang on. Fox News and some homosexuals like to hang on this word. Well, we institute laws, the criminals won't follow them. Not understanding that most recent events, most shootings, don't involve criminals. They're involving citizens who don't have criminal records, who still can get access to firearms even though there were red flags before their purchase. So again, this just goes to show you that's just one story. Now again, I say it best. Brett Kavanaugh may be a douche, but he does not deserve to be his life threatened. So I can't blame them that Congress got together in amazingly fast-tracked legislation to protect Supreme Court justices. I just wish they would do that for every other bill. But again, I understand it, but it just screams priority, especially with the Supreme Court having 6 cases that need to be done before the end of the year, and I don't see much movement on their part. But again, a man with means, motive, and opportunity, and going by the gun laws is where he would purchase that gun, was almost able to get very close to Supreme Court justice, and it could have been a different story. Much less in Florida, which is the king of the hold my beer competition, is the same way also why we need stricter gun laws for this kind of thing not to happen.
They tried to get into the front but weren't unable to get in, so they ended up prying open the back door. Both juveniles ran from the business armed with multiple handguns, ammunition, magazines, and long guns.
The suspected thieves thought they cut off the store's power before breaking in, but it didn't work.
The owner actually got an alert on her phone, and she immediately called the police, and then she was actually able to access the cameras within the store and see the juveniles inside.
After the short chase, police arrested the boys.
The stolen items were accounted for and recovered.
We spoke to the kids' father this afternoon outside of their home, less than a mile from the gun store. He tells me he tried different methods to keep them from sneaking out.
Last night they tried to sneak out maybe 3 or 4 times. I went over there, locked the bicycles together and everything. I even put like cutting boards by doors so if they tried, they could knock it over and everything.
Instead, he got a call from police at 4:30 in the morning.
And all of a sudden, they go like this and they still make it out.
So for all those that are wondering about that story, because it did kind of start a little bit, 2 boys, 11-year-old and a 14-year-old, broke into a Florida gun shop and attempted to steal 22 firearms and a bag load of ammunition. And I know for a lot of y'all are wondering, well, how is that possible? Most gun stores usually have safeguards in place. Used to be right. Most gun stores usually have their ammunition and their firearms locked up tighter than steel drum. Some have actually done gun locks and gun safes. Some of them actually have armed security to watch the premises. Some of them actually have monitoring 24/7 inside of their stores. And yet in Florida, 2 young boys were able to get into a store, steal firearms, and almost get away with it. Again, it's not the fact of how we're purchasing guns. It's how these guns are stored. Because I guarantee as that story develops, they're going to look into how that owner has their firearms locked up. I guarantee it is very loosely. Because if an 11-year-old, 14-year-old can break into the back door of a gun store and walk out with 22 pieces of firearms, something tells me they were not as secure as they thought they were. That's all I'm saying. But again, another reason why the gun culture in America needs to change. But moving right along, guys, we did want to go ahead and get into Uvalde a little bit because we're finally getting people talking. The first one, well, not surprised by this because the police commander at the time has actually spoken forward and says that, and I wish I could make this up, says that every officer did respond on site to the shooting. I wish I could make this up.
Uvalde School Massacre. 4th grade teacher Ava Morales will be laid to rest this morning. This as state investigators are now saying police delayed going into the classroom because they were waiting for protective gear to arrive. Maria Villarreal has the latest.
Overnight, Uvalde School's police chief Pete Arredondo defending police actions during the horrific mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in an interview with the Texas Tribune, saying the only thing that was important to me at this time was to save as many teachers and children as possible, adding not a single responding officer ever hesitated, even for a moment, to put themselves at risk to save the children. Arredondo says he ran straight inside the school without body armor, leaving his radio behind, claiming it would slow him down, and began searching rooms before coming to the room the shooter was in, Without breaching equipment, he says they tried dozens of keys before finding the correct one. Without his radio, he says he was unaware of the 911 calls coming from students inside the classroom, and nobody relayed the information to him. But this morning, more details emerging about police response.
Is there anybody inside of the building? Is advising he is in the room full of victims.
Sources telling ABC News that in a preliminary assessment, state investigators believe that police officers delayed entry into the school as the shooting occurred because they were waiting for protective gear. It's a move that contradicts active shooter protocols that have been adopted by law enforcement agencies across the country. The New York Times also reporting that Chief Arredondo was one of the first officers to enter the school. According to the Times, more than a dozen of the 33 children and 3 teachers originally in the 2 classrooms remained alive during the 1 hour and 17 minutes from when the shooting began to when officers officially entered. An official telling ABC News Arredondo was overheard that day saying, "People are going to ask why we're taking so long." We've continued to ask if Chief Arredondo is on leave or if he is still working for the school district, but school district officials are refusing to answer that question right now. Back here in Austin, where we are, there is a state congressional committee that is continuing to review what happened in Uvalde. They'll hear from more witnesses and have more testimony and evidence presented to them early next week, and we will continue to follow this story.
So again, we've already seen the police. It seems like Uvalde police are pretty much more concerned about covering their own ass and actually giving parents actual answers, especially for the fact of the matter that you've seen video of police officers sitting outside the school waiting for more armed personnel. Really? For one person with body armor and an assault style rifle. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the police chief was not the only person that tried to put a spin on things. The superintendent also did a meeting, and like usual, for any questions that were involved with Uvalde police during that time, well, they decided no comment. Again, I wish I could make this up.
Superintendent speaking out for the first time in nearly 2 weeks, promising parents safer schools starting now.
And it is our goal to hire additional officers to be assigned to each campus for the upcoming school year.
This meeting, he made clear, was not to discuss the DA's investigation or the school's involvement in it.
I'm not going to be able to speak on what we've been asked or what they have shared.
And when asked about Pete Arredondo, the school's chief of police who led the response at Robb Elementary, questions went unanswered.
Can you confirm if Mr. Arredondo is still a district employee? And if so, have you communicated with him at all?
That's a personnel question. I'm not going to be able to answer that in a public forum.
Meantime, at the Texas State Capitol today, officials also looking for answers.
This committee will do everything in its power to get to the bottom of this matter.
We spoke with lawmakers who heard testimony behind closed doors from officers who were sent to the school during the massacre.
We have a duty to do what we can because our children's lives are on the line.
Back in Uvalde, patients wearing thin.
Just worried about my kids.
Simon Alvarez keeping one of his sons home from summer school, telling us he doesn't trust student safety under the district's police chief.
He's supposed to be in charge of taking care of our kids. My confidence ain't there with him.
And tonight, a federal source close to this investigation says a Hellfire trigger was recovered inside a classroom. That's a device that allows a semi-automatic rifle to fire at a near automatic rate. But that same source saying tonight that it does not appear the shooter used that device.
So again, it amazes me that you have not only the police chief, but also the superintendent deciding not to talk about it. I don't understand it. People are wanting answers. People are wanting to know. People are wanting to know why the police response or lack thereof. People are wanting to know why the wait. People are wanting to have accountability. And of course, the police chief, who was the commander on site, seems to either still be a civil servant or not be a civil servant. But I'm going to tell you what's going to wind up happening. Right now, this is the PR storm of how they're going to spin it. How are they going to make this to where Uvalde saves face? Because usually with law enforcement and lack thereof, whenever it is definitely their fault that more lives could have been saved had upon the actions of others, they are going to try to make it to where the police department comes out okay. They may come out this little bruised, but they want to come out okay. Okay being that they give somewhat of an answer, but the answer is obvious that the whole NRA bullshit line of stopping a bad guy with a gun with a good guy with a gun. There were multiple good guys with guns outside. They stopped a mother. They handcuffed a mother from going in and getting her kids out when police wouldn't go do it. They stopped parents from going in and getting their kids when police wouldn't go in there and do it. At the same time, they say that they're cooperating when Justice Department says that they're not. Again, this is the police department doing. This is what law enforcement does best. And when they're held accountable, they will find so many ways to protect themselves that they're not actually police officers. They might as well be lawyers. But we'll follow that story as it comes along because, again, there has to be accountability. And if it means that some people's jobs are going to be resigning, then so be it. But there needs to be accountability because those parents and those husbands definitely and wives who lost someone definitely do deserve answers. What also deserves answers is this, because I keep telling you guys, they are coming for everything, including education, especially in Texas, where a single Texas district pulls 400 books from library shelves for review after the legislators' inquiry. Now, if you're wondering, yes, it is a Republican representative out of Texas decided that at the Northeast Independent School District in San Antonio, determined that the library contained 414 books on a list of roughly 800 that were targeted by Republican Representative Matt Krause, who has, again, decided that these 400 books are deemed not safe for children. For example, they say, quote unquote, most of these are, that's the wrong statement. To ensure, that's what they want to do, that they wanted to review the books out of an abundance of caution to ensure they did not have any obscene or vulgar material, material in them. So this is the point I keep making, because that's what they lean on. They lean on these books saying they don't want anything to have any obscene or vulgar material in them. But what are they targeted? I don't see them targeting Little House on the Prairie. But you know what they do target? They do target minorities. They do target LGBTQ plus authors. They do target the not so friendly skies historical books that are available in every public school library, as they should be. They'll even take out The Hobbit or Harry Potter or Twilight or just any of those books saying that it's teen erotica. Really? I mean, that's what they'll do. They do this because they say that, well, it's obscene. No, it's not. Roots wasn't obscene because, again, I thought it was a very good read. To Kill a Mockingbird, which I still recommend for a lot of people to read. Well, the book is racist. Yes, that's the entire point. Or The Diary of Anne Frank, also another book to read. Of Mice and Men, War and Peace, The Grapes of Wrath. I can keep going down the list. The Catcher in the Rye, the books that they should be reading. Fahrenheit 451 is it's not even a book at this point. It's almost reality. The thing about it is they want to attack education because you know what school has came down to, and I'm just gonna be real for a second. I'm sorry, that's wrong. Some schools, I shouldn't put all schools in this basket. Some schools are becoming to the point where they're just producing workers. Remember when schools produced artists, musicians, auto technicians, woodworkers, contractors, dancers, singers, writers, thinkers, philosophers, people that wanted to work in civics or in law enforcement. I can keep going a lot. Remember when school was just this place of, we'll give you the basics, but we want to inspire you to follow your own path. Sounds great. Well, it doesn't, because it used to be that way. Not anymore. Because schools have changed. Common Core is the thing now. They don't teach you to think. They teach you to pass a standardized test. They don't teach you to do critical thinking. They teach you to follow instructions. Because I use this example all the time. You know what school has become? School has become what most jobs are, what most menial jobs are right now. Because what is school? A bunch of individuals following one person giving directions. What are most jobs right now? A bunch of individuals following one person giving directions. It's literally moving them from the school to the assembly line because they don't want productive, critical thinkers anymore. They don't want progressive, logical people. So this is the reason why they cut so many things out. And let's not forget, they don't even pay teachers what they should be paying. That's a whole nother subject. So let's be honest. I mean, yeah, for public schools, you may not be getting the quality education. And let's be honest, if you really want to give your child a shot, sometimes you have to consider private school, because that's where all the great educators are getting paid. So again, I'm not surprised by that. So what does it got to do with all this? With books being taken? Because that's how you control populations. You control populations by controlling education. By controlling education, you control the next generation. And if you control the next generation, you got it made for about 50 or 60 years until the next batch shows up. Then it's rinse and repeat. Don't believe me? Look at most educations these days. Look at most graduations. Look at most college turnout. The thing I'm pointing out is that they are no longer, some schools out there are not just pulling books, or not just pulling classes, or not just pulling things out because they use the whole thing of obscene or vulgar. It's the fact that we stopped being realistic and just started being systematic. Tell me I'm wrong. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover the story because, like I said, unfortunately, we did have other shootings that did happen post-Uvalde, and this one in Maryland, again, is no different.
People are now dead and one other injured after a man attacked his co-workers in a manufacturing facility. State troopers quickly responded, confronting the shooter as he drove away from the scene. After exchanging gunfire, officers eventually injured and captured him alive. NBC News national security correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now. Ken, walk us through exactly what happened at this facility.
Well, Vicky, authorities have actually said very little about what happened inside this concrete molding company facility. They said they got a call about an active shooter around 2:30 p.m. and that they found that 3 of the employees of the company were shot and killed and a 4th was injured. Law enforcement officials say that 3 Maryland state troopers were speeding toward the scene when they came upon the suspected gunman's vehicle, and that when they tried to stop it, he opened fire with a semi-automatic handgun. They say the troopers fired back, hitting the man, who was then captured and hospitalized. One of the state troopers, they say, suffered minor injuries. Now, they have not named the suspect because they say he has not yet been charged. This happened in a small town about 75 miles west of Baltimore, in a rural area that's also about 8 miles from Camp David, the presidential retreat, Vicky.
3 people killed. Ken, obviously the details are sparse at this point, but do we have a sense of if he worked there? Was this basically a workplace violence event?
Yeah, that's really all we know in terms of motive, Vicky, was that police say he was an employee of this company. We're expecting to learn more details today when the suspect is charged. What we do know is that this kind of workplace shooting has become depressingly common in the United States, and that this was one of more than 250 mass shootings so far this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive, Vicky.
So again, another shooting, people are killed, and all I can sit there and say the entire time is, when is something going to be done? And a lot of people argue, well, that's just 3 people killed. It's not a mass shooting. It's just multiple people got hit. I hate the fact of how we classify that. How do we classify a mass shooting versus someone that just shot 2 or 3 people? It doesn't, in my mind, that doesn't take away from the fact that an individual decided that they could come back and literally end people's lives just because they're fed up, regardless of the reason. The fact that they can do it, or the fact they have access to it. Let's not forget last week before last, we did actually cover a person who literally went to a hospital to shoot it up. To shoot the doctor because the pain that he was associated with, because the post-surgery didn't help him, was still able to buy a firearm that very same day and then come back to the hospital and attempt to shoot the doctor. We do have a gun problem, literally and figuratively, in this country. And the more we keep ignoring it, or downsizing it, or just trying to classify it, instead of doing what we should have done and actually follow suit, because right now Canada has a freeze on all firearms. And Canada is actually doing more than us. I mean, New Zealand had a mass shooting 2 years ago. Their prime minister banned all assault rifles. No mass shooting since. UK, strict gun laws there. Australia, stricter gun laws. Japan, probably some of the strictest gun laws, regulations, and requirements above any other nation. Don't believe me? Google Japan's gun requirements and you'll see why I said that. which is why I keep on saying it's amazing that I just named 4 different nations that haven't had a mass shooting since those laws were enacted. And yet, we are now over 200 in America. Why America, for all its gun-loving nature, that our laws are so loose, why are we the only country in the world that still has mass shootings? That's all I'm saying. But before we move on to our feel-good segment, guys, I wanted to cover this story anyway because, again, we need something happy. I know it's not the feel-good news segment, but this makes me happy because finally, this bank is getting investigated. I'm hoping it leads to something. I'm being optimistic, but I'm being realistic. I hope it leads to something. What bank am I talking about, by the way? Wells Fargo. Under criminal investigation. Finally. Now, it's not under for what I hoped it would be under, but it's under for hiring practices. Now, keep in mind, if you don't remember, this is what Wells Fargo also did.
And news of a massive settlement with Wells Fargo, accused of opening up accounts and charging fees without customers knowing. Here's ABC's chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, tonight.
Tonight, federal officials say Wells Fargo traded its reputation for short-term profits, the banking giant agreeing to pay $3 billion, admitting to a scheme where company employees opened millions of fake bank accounts in people's names without their knowledge, all part of an effort to meet unrealistic sales goals. As employees falsified records, the bank collected millions in fees. A former worker saying, it was like lions hunting zebras.
You had to open 10 accounts every single day.
The scheme reportedly targeted minorities who speak little English, college students, and seniors, starting in 2002. Senior executives knew about it, but didn't stop it until 2016.
Wells Fargo traded its hard-earned reputation for short-term profits.
David, the settlement includes a $500 million payout to investors, and tonight the door is still open to individual executives facing additional charges and penalties.
Okay, so that's what it was known for. Keep in mind, it was identity theft. What they committed was identity theft. For multiple Wells Fargo's customers that had bank accounts, not only bank accounts, some have credit cards, and not even the mortgage side of things. This bank was caught red-handed in the cookie jar with identity theft. And you would think a bank that got caught with identity theft, like, oh, that's it, cancel Christmas. And I was amazed that after a $3 billion settlement, they were still allowed to operate as if nothing happened. But what's actually going to happen now is the actual practices themselves. Like, for example, the reason why they're being investigated is because after a report in the New York Times that said employees were told by superiors to interview women and people of color, even though the hiring decision had already been made. Think about that. And the reason why I say that, guys, is that I'm not surprised by that because many companies have done that. Very few of them get reported because a lot of people don't know that if you believe, and I say this all the time, reach out to the labor board in your city, in your state. Because you know why? What they did was some shady ass hiring practices that they interviewed women and people of color just to sit there and say that, yes, we are diverse, even though they already had the person that they wanted to hire, but they still jumped through all these hoops. Why? Because they have to follow the process and you can't show favoritism and discrimination. But that's what they did. And if it wasn't up until someone reporting this to the New York Times, Wells Fargo would still be doing these practices. Now, I didn't think identity theft could take them out. Could hiring practices finally get Wells Fargo in the hot water it needs to be in? Remains to be determined. But I am hopeful because you know why? I've always said Wells Fargo, right along with Bank of America, are two banks in America that literally and figuratively need to be closed down just because of illegal practices between both. But again, we will follow that story as it goes along. I just hope that that'll be enough to put the nail in the coffin for Wells Fargo. That's just me. So, moving on to our feel good segment, because usually on the Frack right here, guys, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes we lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's Saturday. It's the weekend. Hopefully, it's nice and sunny where you are. And if not, please stay safe. But we do want to give you guys a couple of stories, to give you a little bit of hope, make you feel good about yourself. And the first one is I kind of looked up on this one because let's be honest, gas prices are not going to go down anytime soon. Why? Because oil companies don't care. They're making record profits. And if you're not a shareholder, they're not going to care about you. but individual franchise owners who actually purchase gas are trying to make a difference, especially this business owner who is actually doing something for a community at a sign of great profit loss.
These pumps are getting a lot of use lately.
This is literally the only place in Phoenix where you can get it under like $5.50 right now.
It's a sign of the times, but driving by a gas station and seeing $5.19 a gallon is a bargain in Phoenix right now.
Finding gas at an affordable price is key.
James McGarry lives right down the street from this station. He comes here twice a week to fill up.
There's no point in going anywhere else.
While people like James are saving at the pumps, the owner is losing money.
I never counted how much we lose, how much we gain, you know.
Jaswinder Singh is buying gas from his supplier at $5.66 a gallon, but he sells it for 47 cents less. Around 1,000 gallons are pumped here each day, so Singh is actually losing out on nearly $500 a day, but he says it's worth it.
To break to the customer, my community, you know, people don't have money right now.
Singh and his wife are working extra hours right now to try and lessen the blow from the lower prices. Helping others is their lifestyle, and it's appreciated.
My mother, my father, they teach us to help. If you have something, you have to share with other people.
I am super thankful. I'm grateful that it's here.
Now think about that, guys, for a second. Literally and figuratively, you are a gas station owner. On top of that, gas is profitable right now. And let's be honest, for most ways of business, the increase in price is usually passed on to the customer. But that couple decide that we'll take a loss if it helps people. And again, that just goes to show you paying it forward. And I like the fact that you said it. You know, if you have the ability to help somebody, help somebody. And I dig that. So definitely kudos to that couple for that gas station, because they are helping a lot of people. Because let's be honest, we don't expect Exxon or Shell or Citgo or any of those other big old companies to really help us. Because again, we're not shareholders or stakeholders in the companies. But it's always good to see that actual individual gas station owners are trying to help out people best they can. The next story, guys, again, was actually one I played during the midweek review because, again, I love seeing Black people achieve, and this young woman is no exception.
America Strong, the teen making her college dreams come true.
Ashley Adarica.
That's 17-year-old Ashley Adarica accepting her diploma from Miami Beach Senior High School.
One of my biggest dreams was to get accepted into an Ivy League.
A vision Ashley would soon make a reality. An exceptional student and standout on the speech and debate team.
The teacher, she just believed in my potential.
But Ashley also faced challenges, commuting to high school 2 hours each way. A first-generation Nigerian American, Ashley says she grew up in a household full of strong women, inspiring her to start the nonprofit Our Story, Our Worth.
I just had this idea to empower young women of marginalized groups.
Setting the stage for Ashley's next chapter, college.
Hey guys, welcome to Ivy Day.
And here she is on acceptance day.
All right, we're going to UPenn first.
Acceptance letters.
Yay! We're coming to UPenn.
And scholarship offers. Coming one after another.
I just got accepted into all 8 Ivies and the tears just started to come out. It was crazy.
That's right, all 8 Ivy League schools, including Princeton, Yale, Columbia. But it was Harvard that won her heart with a full ride in the fall. Her life journey just getting started.
I didn't expect it, but I was so happy and so grateful.
Way to go, Ashley.
Yep, I just love when you just love to see your people win. So definitely congratulations to that young woman. Not only for being accepted at every Ivy League school, but getting into Harvard on a full ride. Woo! I said that you just love to see it. Love to see it. So the last story I got, guys, is again, like I always say before, about dreams. Never ever give up on dreams. I mean, they may seem far, they may seem impossible, but I always say, as long as you stick to it, as long as you dedicate yourself, how far are you willing to go to get to where you want to be? And this young athlete just got the best news of their life today as they will be attending the Special Olympics. Again, you love to see it.
Everyone, there is no shortage of incredible stories at the. We have another one to share with you right now. Robin, TJ, Amy, they are at the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games at the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex in Disney World this morning. Robin, tell us about who you have with you now.
I am happy to do that, Lindsay. Special Olympics always inspiring. The heart and soul of the athletes on full display as they compete in the games. Like Lamine Lightning Montesol. You may remember we surprised her last year on GMA, telling her she was coming to these games. Well, we have been following her journey, and we want to share more of her story with you right now. They call her Lightning, and Lamine Montesol is ready to take on her competition. The 27-year-old athlete from Boston,
Nice job, Lamine.
capturing our hearts on GMA 1 year ago.
Before Special Olympics, I haven't no one to talk to, and it's kind of lonely. But now, since I joined Special Olympics, I became more talkative to others, and makes me feel happy.
Lamine striving to earn her spot at the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games in Orlando. A dream come true. Open up the box. Realized in this moment.
Wow.
I am honored to tell you that you are advancing to the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games track. Yay! Oh my God! You're going! Oh congratulations! Yes! You've earned this. You've earned this.
I thank Special Olympic, saved my daughter's life. I seen the light of her eyes, how much she wanted this. That made me more proud than ever.
I see you both in Orlando. How's that sound? 2022, here we come, right? Since last June, Lamine continues to find her fighting spirit, training extensively on and off the field.
She's been practicing, every day. She's not stopping for anything. She is ready to go.
What I'm looking forward to most is to meet people. It's a big adventure for me.
And I couldn't miss the adventure. 1 year later, here I am in Orlando, Florida to meet Lamine, aka Lightning, and celebrate the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games. She has no idea I'm about to surprise her. Let's go find Lightning. Where is Lamine? You really are Lightning! You really are! How are you? I'm good. You having a good time already?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But yes, it's your first time, right?
Yeah.
You worked so hard for this.
Yeah.
I know you've been training. You gotta tell me 3 track and field events, right? You got a favorite?
200 meters.
Nice to meet you too. Alongside Lamine. Are y'all excited to be here? Yeah. Members of Team Special Olympics Massachusetts, all ready for their big week ahead.
1, 2, 3, Team Mass.
Do you have a message heading into the competition that you want to share with everybody?
Be brave and be proud for who you are. Be positive as a champion.
Be positive as a champion. You got that right. Be brave and be proud of who you are. Lightning is with us live right now. I got to tell you, you get a gold medal when it comes to hugs. You give the best hugs.
Yeah.
You're here.
Yeah.
You're here. Are you enjoying yourself,
Yeah.
Lamine? What have you been enjoying yourself about?
I'm enjoying about the best moment that I have in the USA Games, ready to compete and ready to set foot on the track for my 200 meters, which is my favorite sport.
Oh, I know, because they don't call you Lightning for nothing. And we saw that she could take off really fast. You know, a little birdie told us that you are a fan of Allison Felix, who is a 7-time Olympic gold medalist. I think she has a message for you.
Really?
Look.
Hey, Lamine, it's Allison. I just wanted to wish you all the best at the Special Olympics. Go have fun. I know that you're going to make us proud, and we're all so excited for you.
You're inspiring. inspiring so many people. I hope you know that.
Yes, and guess what, Lumine? Allison is not the only one with something for you. We have another surprise. You are such an inspiration to so many. You caught the attention of Athleta, and they have a mission. It is to empower women and girls just like you. So they want to give you, outfit you for an entire year with Athleta.
Wow! Can't believe this. Wow!
There's more. There's more. They'll have a full year's supply.
Because you train all year round. It's all it's all in there, honey. You get don't worry. It's all for you. It's all for you. But you train. People need to know how seriously you all take this and how you train year round.
Yeah, I train so hard to accomplish my dream to come true. Like working hard at Wegmans, working hard when I'm exercising at home, and try to lift up weights and doing my exercise bike for 15 or 20 minutes, 4 days a week, and doing my local Special Olympic competition in Massachusetts. But now I am really here in the USA Games.
So hard for this.
Yes.
You know? And we're going to shine as one. Shine as one, all of y'all. We're just so incredibly proud.
Yeah.
All right. She's ready to get going. I know. All right, Lamine.
To the start of the most restrictive Olympic. Wow, that was about to go differently. Wow. I love stories like that because number one, I know me kind of managing everything on this side, but still I love seeing stuff like that. I love seeing stories where you see positive individuals actually give a message that everyone can get behind. Not to mention the fact, I don't blame her. I would check that bag too. Like, what I got? It's like, what y'all give me? I don't blame her. I don't blame a young woman at all. I would have checked the bag my doggone self. But again, to me, it's inspiring. It's inspiring. There's no other way I can put that. It is inspiring and it's hopeful. It's just like, dang, I know you guys like me. It's like you guys could have some days, days may not go as well as you think they will, and then you start, you get downhearted, you don't feel like your best, you don't feel at your optimum, and then you see something like that, and it's just like, you know what, that gives me hope, and it's the reason why I love doing stories like this. But wow, I just got tongue-tied for a second. Sorry about that, guys. But that's really going to do it for this podcast. So I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know it's live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we get out of here, guys. I do want to first shout out to the guys over at Geeks Out, Ari Geek present Geeks Out, for allowing me to share my podcast on their page. You can definitely find them on Facebook as well as YouTube at Ari and Geek present Geek Salad. Also, shout out to my boy Vaughn, Hey the Vaughn Westman on Facebook, and Big V out on socials, where you can definitely catch his shows that you see there, Smoking Trailer Sundays and the REF podcast. And of course, his funking around in sporadic IG posts. And trust me, he's had some interesting ones. I'll put it that way. But definitely check him out as well. Also, for yours truly, guys, you can find me at my handle, BlackFox447. I usually post a lot of movie reviews, video game reviews, television shows, things of that nature, and also some gem stuff because I do a couple push-ups. At the same time, guys, as you can see, I am all about being positive. I am all about pushing people forward and motivating others because we need that going forward in life. And also just the fact of my whole thing, like my whole message is to just be kind, be uplifting, be helpful to others, because you don't know what battles a person's going through. I know the pandemic has kind of got us all sheltered, but it doesn't hurt to be nice. It takes zero energy to be nice. It takes 100% to be a dick. At the same time, if you see a brother, don't be afraid to say hi to a brother. As men, we don't say hi. I know brothers don't. Brothers, we just mean bug. I start getting to the point like, hey man, what's going on? What's happening? What's up? I'm just, it doesn't, by saying hi or hello or seeing or checking on somebody, you can do more than just uplift their spirits. You can actually save a life in some situations you don't know. But again, just going forward, just be nice and be cool. I know that sounds like a DARE program message, but that's what I believe. So you also guys do see the ticker at the bottom. Actually blow it up a little bit bigger. If you copy and paste the link into your in your browser, it will take you to my link tree that has a YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack got here, Get Bitten, of course, the Offense podcast. You can definitely like, share, and subscribe, and you can see every podcast that we've done from there and let people know about it. It's about growing these shows into something bigger to where I can actually make this just not only my passion but my full time. That's the goal. That's the dream. That's the gig, in my opinion. So With that being said, guys, last thing I'll say is again, COVID is still out there. May not be as prevalent as monkeypox, but it's still out there. So definitely wear a mask in high traffic areas or heavy congested areas. Please be aware, protect yourself so we can protect others. At the same time, guys, it's just all about, going out there and finding some peace. Find your peace, find your relaxation, because mental health is so vital in this day and age with everything going up with your paycheck. Mental health is definitely key. Don't forget that. The last thing I'll say about how the Frack got here, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to change minds or reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information allow you to make up your own mind for yourself, but provide a logical, progressive perspective that goes along right with it. We do a lot better when we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first black woman as the Supreme Court justice, like electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, to electing our first woman as a commanding officer, as a high-ranking commanding officer in the U.S. Navy. When we don't learn from our history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves all the time, why does everything go up with your paycheck? Why are we electing the same politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack got here. Thank you all for watching. And I definitely want to know all your comments on everything we discussed tonight. Today, I should say. I'm sorry, I get my days and my nights mixed up. I apologize. Everything we discussed in this podcast. There we go. That's better. I still want to know what you guys think. Aside from that, take care of yourselves and each other. We will all get through this. Peace.